Hey now, it's Ruben with Help Find the Others. How you guys doing? Again, want to start out with gratitude and thank everyone for watching my channel, subscribing, hitting the thumbs up button. I really appreciate everyone that's reached out to me. And again, sorry, some of the people I've ghosted on about Skyping and stuff. I you know the the amount of time I have to myself to sit down and talk at the computer to anyone is pretty rough because I don't have a room to myself in the house, so like if I was sitting here talking to someone, there would be little kids on my lap and stuff at some point, so that might just be weird for some people or whatever. But anyway, um, I do hope to reach out to people. I also want to let everyone know that I'm in the works right now to start creating a podcast. And so I'll keep everyone updated on that. But if anyone has any good ideas for topics they would like to hear for episodes of a podcast, I want to take my time with it and really like plan it out and have it be a little more structured than what these videos are, where I'm just kind of improvising and riffing. I kind of want to have it planned out so it sounds pretty professional, and I would like to get it hosted on as many different podcast sites and stuff as I could, and get it out there. So if anyone has any ideas or wants to be a guest, hit me up at helpfindtheothers@protonmail.com. It'll probably be like a monthly thing. Someone that's contacted me through this channel is going to be kind of a co-host type of thing, and he knows the technical aspect and is going to record it all. So I'm excited about that, and hopefully we can get the ball rolling pretty quick on that. But like I said, I want to make sure it's professional and doesn't just sound like my normal rambling. So speaking of rambling, what I wanted to talk about today is integration, I guess, after back into real life after a psychedelic trip. So I'm gonna label this this video "Life After Ego Death," right? So ego death is the catch buzzword that will bring clicks on this video, but I don't really like that term. Okay, it's a state of psychedelic experience that I think can have a lot of different terms to describe the same thing. And I see on Reddit or Facebook or YouTube comments the same troll patrol that comes out on my heroic dose video. I'm sure will come out on this because of that catchword ego death. Everyone has their own opinion on what that is, right? But again, I have to stress, as with the term heroic dose, it's just terminology. It's just part of your language, which is part of your culture, which if you've actually had an ego death, you were able to look beyond, and you probably don't put much faith in anymore, except if you're being a troll and telling people what their experience was compared to your experience and that your experience was better. You obviously didn't get the point of the ego death, if you even had it. So I don't like the term ego death. I think ego disillusion or ego detour or ego reboot. I don't know, something like that, because the death part means it's not coming back, and unfortunately it really does come back. But if you are able to experience your consciousness without your ego, it makes you look at life a little differently once your ego comes back. So let's look at what is an ego, right? If no one has heard this term before, so your ego is the filter through which your consciousness experiences life. I don't know if that's an official term. That's just official description, but that's just how I see it. So look at it this way: when you're born, right? None of us, unless we're, there's very few people that can remember their birth, right? And remember when they were a baby. There's a consciousness there. There's a soul there. There's an essence. There's a life. There's a being, right? So when you're born, your soul has a consciousness, but it doesn't have any memory. It doesn't. Everything is alien to it. So everything that happens in your life that gives you understanding of your reality or of your life is what makes up your ego. And so you can look at it like if your inner essence is at the start of this tower, then your ego is all these lenses that are built up on the tower that filter like life and reality through to your consciousness, to your base essence. And everything you've experienced, every emotion, every sense, everything you've tasted, everything you've heard or smelled, or every person you've ever known, every relationship you've ever had, everything that you've experienced in your life becomes part of that filter of your ego. And when we, for the sake of this channel, when we take a psychedelic drug that can dissolve our ego, which people call ego death, you are experiencing reality without the filter. You're able to turn the filter off. The psychedelic drug turns that filter off. Now, the interesting thing is that there are some people that don't need the psychedelic drug to achieve that. Okay, if you've ever read Graham Hancock's book Supernatural, he mentions that there's 2% of the human population that can just go into a trance, go to the ethereal plane or whatever you want to call it, and really exist without time and space. Their consciousness can exist without time and space without using psychedelic drugs. Psychedelic drugs just take the cab ride all the way there without doing the work that other people do with Kundalini yoga or meditation or sensory deprivation. There's shamans that go to that plane of existence, the void, whatever, the egoless existence. They do it by just dancing, and basically dancing themselves into exhaustion in the heat, and having an ego death experience, and then since they're experienced in doing it, they can do all sorts of magical spiritual things while in that state. But nevertheless, it's the same effect as what high doses of psychedelic drugs can get you to. But again, I must stress, this isn't the death of your ego. If it's the death, there's definitely a rebirth, because everybody comes back. That we focus on that the important thing that you should reach for in a psychedelic experience is an ego death, and that part of reality is what's important, and this reality isn't important. But that's not true, because everyone comes back. The only time you don't come back is when you're actually dead and gone, and then you experience whatever's after this for eternity. But it doesn't matter how much drugs you take, what the dosage is, what drugs you take, you come back to here. So this is what's important. And a lot of times after a heavy psychedelic experience, this reality, normal reality, is what people have a hard time with. So I want to talk about how we integrate and how important integration is to the psychedelic experience. The after management after your psychedelic experience is probably almost more important than the psychedelic experience itself. Because a lot of these experiences, a lot of these deep experiences, while people are very good at explaining what they saw and what they did and what they thought, at the end of the day, it's a very hard thing to grab onto and to bring back, to understand. It's like a dream. It's like when you wake up from a dream and you're like, wow, that was a crazy dream. And then, you're like, I don't remember even what it was, though. I just know it was crazy. The psychedelic experience is very much like that. That a lot of the lessons learned, a lot of the, problems you worked out or whatever, they all reside in your subconscious. And it's hard to grab that and take it back to your consciousness. So, I read a lot of people that on Reddit and stuff like that say, I just can't, after this DMT trip I had, I can't relate to normal people. I can't relate to normal society and all of this. Well, that's a problem, because I don't think that psychedelic drugs, the term abuse is different for psychedelic drugs. The frequency at which you do them, I don't think is the same abuse as the frequency in which you do other drugs. I think the problem and where psychedelic drug usage comes into abuse is when you are totally trying to escape this reality. When you become convinced that the void, the psychedelic realm is the most important reality there is, and it's what we should focus on, and it's what it all matters. This isn't true. So the most important part of integration is to use your psychedelic experience to become more grateful for your normal day-to-day reality and existence and your normal state of consciousness, to appreciate that more. And why I say that is because I've never gone so far with an ego death experience to where there has not been an I. I've experienced not having a body. I've experienced floating around in just a limitless nothingness. As far as I could see, nothing, except my thoughts. So there was still an ego, there was still an ego to experience it. So I've had some people, when I've been explaining my experiences, say like, oh, you didn't really have an ego. I don't know. Again, it's not on me, it's not on you to determine the severity of anyone else's psychedelic experience, because it happens in your own brain. It happens in between these two ears, and nobody else has anything to do with it. But to experience that nothingness and to come back and be like, oh my God, I'm so lucky to be alive and to have an existence where there is love and enjoyment and positivity, because there could be absolutely nothing. I've experienced nothing, and it's terrible, and life is amazing. You need to come back with that. That is paramount to the ego death experience. No matter how far you go into the void, you need to come back with a greater appreciation of what we have every morning when we wake up. That, it's cliche, but to say that life, they call it the present because life is a gift. Be here now. All these things that you see written on motivational posters and stuff like that. That's what they're talking about. You need to be, you need to be happy about now, because there could be nothing. We are so lucky to be alive. Every day you wake up, you are lucky to be alive. And really, there's lots of experiences in life that will give you that appreciation, but the psychedelic experience, it's almost will give you the deepest appreciation for that. And it will teach you that you need to just love. That's it. Positivity. That's all you need. All you need is to spread love and positivity to everyone else. And this is why I think that psychedelics are the thing that can save our society right now, is that everyone spreads negativity now. Everyone gets online and blah, 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 blah. And even in the psychedelic culture. Because look at the YouTube comments on my heroic dose video. 1 in 30 comments is someone talking shit about dosage. Like not listening to anything I said in the video and just, immediately saw 5 grams and said, that's bullshit. That's our society now, is we just spread all this negativity. And you're having a bad day, you get on Facebook and someone's flaming you about your political views, and then you spread that negative, and it's this negative feedback loop. And I think psychedelics can break that and have a positive feedback loop. And I don't think everyone has to have an ego death experience to know that, but you kind of do to really validate the appreciation for life. I think you do have to have a deep experience. Now, I also think, so that's okay. Sorry. So out of the things that should be taken out of an ego death experience that will be, even if you only have one experience, will last the rest of your lifetime. There's 3 things. One is what I just said, an appreciation for life and knowing that there could be nothing and experiencing nothing and knowing that this life is good. This is what matters. This is why we come back. As much as we want to believe there's a meaning to psychedelics and what they do to us and everything, there's also meaning to life, because otherwise you wouldn't come back to it. When the drug wears off, you come back. If psychedelics were the real meaning in life, well then you just would never come down. The other thing that's very important and also, helps with your appreciation of life and stuff is to have this moment of, oh my God, I've been here before, of deja vu. Psychedelics have really changed the way I view that feeling of deja vu without drugs. When you have that, there's something to that. And psychedelics create that feeling again. I was thinking one day in a float tank, and I was like, and I had deja vu while I was in it, and I wasn't on any drugs, and I was like, man, that's weird. And I was thinking, I'm like, I wonder if when you experience deja vu, if that's some of the endogenous DMT that's in our brain kind of squirting through, and then you have this kind of spurt of a psychedelic experience. But it's just that. But anyway, that was just a thought I had. But to have that feeling of deja vu, that feeling of, oh my God, I've been here before, I've experienced this, how did I forget this? And then going back and forgetting it again. To have that experience will help you realize that life is bigger than you. That all the things we worry about, and the things that we argue about, it doesn't matter, because this is just this ride that everyone's been on for as long as you could even imagine, and it's just going to keep going. And so we owe it to ourselves to enjoy it, and we owe it to everyone else to help them enjoy it. And anything we're doing to stop people from enjoying this ride is wrong. So or is a waste of time. Not wrong. I mean, everyone does it, but it's just a waste of time. It's not the point. The point is to spread enjoyment and love. So if you see the general theme here of psychedelics equal positivity, the third thing that I think needs to be taken from a ego death experience or ego disillusion, like I said, I don't like that term, but I'm going to keep using it just because of whatever, is to understand the power of astonishment or awe, to be awestruck. We live in a time where that doesn't happen. Everyone takes everything for granted. These fucking things, god damn, they're amazing. But nobody knows how they fucking work. Nobody knows. I don't want to quote comedians all the time, but Louis C.K. has a line where he's like, everyone's mad at their phone. They're like, this thing's so slow. And he's like, give it a second. It's got to go to space, And he's right. Because we have this amazing technology that 100 years ago would blow the mind of someone living 100 years ago. But we don't give a shit, and we're pissed about it. We're pissed if we have to unplug a router and plug it back in. When before, to talk to someone, you had to write a letter and wait for 3 months. And now we can, send videos of ourselves to thousands of people at a time. It's insane, and we are not astonished by it. We are not in awe of it. We come to expect it. We take it for granted. So when we have these psychedelic experiences, whether you have an ego death or not, just a deep psychedelic experience, oh my God. Terrence even said the biggest danger with a DMT trip is death by astonishment. That you will be in so much awe of what you're witnessing and the power of this molecule in between your ears that it changes everything that you experience and alters your consciousness and whatever. And you'll be astonished by it. You'll be in awe. You'll be humbled by this. That's important to come out of a psychedelic experience being humble. Which is another reason why when the Troll Patrol shows up, I'm like, and talks about, people are just having a recreational dose and they can do so much more than them. Well, I think you miss the point if you're showing no sense of being humble and you're just being a YouTube troll. It's like, all you did was just take a lot of drugs, but you missed the point, right? So to come out of that with this astonishment and awe, well, that's a feeling you should chase, and maybe not just with drugs, right? Maybe you should chase things in life that astonish you or give you a sense of awe or make you awestruck. Maybe you should chase that in your normal consciousness, in your everyday reality. And so that's where my idea of the psychedelic nature center comes into play, because not just to experience nature on drugs, but to learn to experience it afterwards and have a deeper appreciation for it in some sort of post psychedelic integration center, which I actually know a friend who's planning on starting one of those. I want to be involved in those kind of things as well. Like this is a movement. Albert Hoffman in his book LSD My Problem Child talks about microdosing LSD and to especially take it among the trees, among tall trees. What the Swiss or wherever he was from, they call it forest bathing, right? To do that post psychedelic trip or during a psychedelic trip, I think would be amazing. Well, I know it's amazing, but I think to be able to provide that to people that aren't comfortable with nature and don't know much about it, to get them into nature and get them to experience the awe that there is, I think could go a long way to help people with anxiety and depression and stuff like that, and especially post psychedelic experience depression and anxiety. Because, like I was saying, in our society, people are not astonished or awestruck by the amazing technology that surrounds us. But if you go to the Grand Canyon or Niagara Falls or the Redwood Forest or whatever, pick your scene of Mother Nature, you're going to find people there that are like in awe of it. And all it is something that's been there before humans have been around. It's just been sitting there. And we're in awe of it. With all the technology we have. Now, you might see some teenagers sitting there on their phone or whatever. So that's the other thing why I think psychedelics can really help society, is by stopping that. Stopping the screen addiction that people have, that they're missing the world around them and letting it go past them. So those are the three things that I think, are key to fully integrating back into the real world. Because, like I said, a lot of people want to just escape this reality and think there's no point to it, and the whole point to everything is from the psychedelic drugs. That's fine, but I do think that's where you get into psychedelic drug abuse, and that this reality is important, and you need to walk the line between both of them. But you need to learn how to get along. Just just because you can take 30 grams of mushrooms and fly around space with the praying mantis people, well, you still got to come back tomorrow and go to work at your cubicle or talk to your neighbor or whatever. You still have to manage those personal interactions. And for some people, that's pretty hard. And so I think there needs to be, like I said, integration centers and integration services involved with the next stage of psychedelic revolution in this society, in order to help people with that. The other thing I wanted to say too is to not, if for anyone looking to achieve ego death, there isn't a magic number of this is how much mushrooms you take, this is how much LSD you take, this is whatever. There isn't a magic number because it's all about you letting go. For me, I used to be able to let go a lot more than I do now. My real life is very demanding. I have a lot of responsibility. It's hard for me to let go. It's hard for me to exist without knowing my name. Because that's the thing. Well, like a full-on ego death, you don't remember your name. You don't remember where you are. Your body, you don't understand what it is. You don't understand anything. It's hard for me to let go and get to that point without getting very scared because your ego fights back. And tries to tell you you're dying. That's the only death part of the ego death, is that your ego tells you, like, whatever you did, you're killing us, and it's scary, and that's where the anxiety comes from in a trip. So there isn't that's what's funny about the Troll Patrol is telling me on my 5-gram video that I didn't achieve anything because they've taken 30 grams. Well, perhaps their ego is so strong that it takes them 30 grams to get to where I can get with 5 grams. It's all about the letting go. 1 gram of mushrooms could provide an ego death. No grams of mushrooms can provide an ego death if you're good at meditating and you're good at yoga and all of these things. There isn't a magic number. It's all about you letting go of this life and knowing that you'll come back. Because you can have this moment in a deep psychedelic experience, and this is kind of where you know that you've achieved ego death almost, is when you're like, I'm stuck. I've done it now. I'm never going back. This is my reality now. I died. And so to be able to approach that feeling without fear. Is what's important in letting go, and it has nothing to do with the dosage, So I'm sorry to all the people that want to say, "Oh, you got to take 10 grams. It's a new ball. It's a whole different ball." No, it is. Don't get me wrong. It's easier to let go, I imagine, when you're fully pushed into it, but it's not necessary. So I don't know. I hope that was one concise. Well, it wasn't concise, but I hope that was one complete thought of how important integration is to our real life, after a psychedelic experience. And my last thing I want to leave everyone with is, again, like I said, I'm going to label this ego death, or life after ego death, because it's a buzzword and it'll get clicks and people will get turned on to my channel. But don't get caught up in the terminology, the heroic dose, the ego death, the all of this stuff is just part of your language, you're part of your terminology, which is part of your language, which is part of your culture, which is part of your ego. And so if you're arguing about any of these terms, well, then you haven't really been able to get your ego under control, and your ego is controlling you. Your culture is controlling you, and that's not what's important. What's important is being grateful for this life, and trying to spread enough positivity to make everyone that you come across grateful for this life too. And that's what's important. That's what psychedelics should teach us, and that is what I hope they will bring to society at some point. I don't think it has anything else nothing else matters with psychedelics. Like everything else is just a personal experience. But as far as what they can do for society, it's all about positivity and gratitude. And I would like to end with gratitude as well. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you haven't hit a thumbs up, hit a thumbs up on my videos. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye.